If you want to make money on social media, I'm going to explain exactly how to do it. Because chances are, if you're struggling to earn, you're probably making some of the same mistakes I did. So in this video, I'm going to share the 5 biggest mistakes I've made as a creator and why avoiding them will make you more money. By the way, I'm Jacob. I've gained over 200,000 followers, made thousands as a creator, and I've been in the game for 11 years. Let's dive in. The first mistake is an absolute killer. If you don't get this right, you're setting yourself up for extreme pain. Roughly 2 years ago, I was looking for a new project when Elon started paying creators on Twitter. My bread and butter had always been Instagram, but I decided to make a gamble that X monetization would be the next big thing. I spent the next 18 months building up my X account by talking about what I was learning. But then in early 2025, the X monetization program absolutely tanked. And I was left with an audience of people who didn't care about my niche. The mistake I made was talking exclusively about X monetization. If I was to do things over again, I would have chosen a niche that was more evergreen. That way I could still talk about X monetization without marrying myself to the topic. So mistake number 1 is basing your niche on a trend. Now, I just want to clarify, it's okay to talk about trends. The problem is when you're banking on something you can't control in order for you to succeed. By the way, if you want a more in-depth guide for choosing the right niche, I've created a free monetization roadmap. Inside, you'll find everything you need to pick the right niche, grow an audience, and make money as a creator. If you're interested, you can download it using the first link in the description. All right, the second mistake is super common among small creators. I call it the influencer trap. Follower count has become a status symbol in today's society. So when people start building a following, they think they need hundreds of thousands of followers before they can make money. But the truth is, the composition of your audience is more important than the size. Let's say creator A has 75,000 entrepreneurs following them. Meanwhile, creator B has 1 million followers, but it's a much more general audience. Which would you rather have? I think you can make a pretty good case for either, but I would rather be creator A. Entrepreneurs are trying to build businesses, so they are willing to pay for stuff if it's going to make them more money. This presents tons of opportunities for brand deals, affiliate partnerships, and your own product or service. On the other hand, with a more general audience, creator B is likely going to have to rely more on brand deals, which is still a good way to make money. It just doesn't have as much upside as creator A. Don't make the mistake of trying to get more followers just so you have a higher number on your profile. And that leads into mistake number 2, which is chasing follower count instead of follower quality. All right, the next mistake is the number 1 reason small creators stay poor. If you can avoid this pitfall, it will be extremely hard to fail. When I got my first taste of social media success, I was hooked. I had grown a page to several thousand followers, and now I wanted to do it again. My grand plan was to have a whole network of pages because I would make more money running 10 pages than I would running 1. My plan was correct in theory, but I quickly realized how difficult it was to run multiple pages at the same time. It's time consuming enough to run 1 page at a high level, but running 10 by myself was near impossible. It wasn't until I scaled back and put all my focus back into 1 page that I grew that page to over 68,000 followers. And to make things even better, I made more money from that page than from all my other pages combined. Now, usually there are 2 reasons why someone gets distracted by other opportunities. The first is when you're struggling to get things off the ground, so you start looking for a path that's easier. This has been me many times. But the reality is, no matter what path you choose, it's always going to be hard. So if you keep bouncing around from idea to idea, you're just restarting your progress every time. All right, the second time this happens is when you're starting to succeed and now you have a zillion new opportunities that all look good. This is a much better problem to have than the first one, but once again, it's important that you stay focused on the main thing. Otherwise, you're going to get spread too thin and everything will suffer as a result. So mistake number 3 is chasing after shiny objects. All right, mistake number 4 is one of my favorite mistakes. If I had learned this earlier, I would have made way more money. Remember back in mistake number 2 when we talked about the influencer trap? I believe the early days of social media have corrupted the minds of today's prospective creators. We grew up watching YouTubers like Smosh, Ryan Higa, and PewDiePie become wildly successful because of their content. But because we were so young, we didn't understand the business behind it. Yes, these creators made millions through YouTube AdSense, but they likely made just as much, if not more, through things like brand deals, affiliate partnerships, and their own products. So even though platforms have creator funds now, that should not be your main source of income. Going back to my X monetization example, this is one of the mistakes I made that cost me big time. I'll talk about it more in a minute, but I relied too much on payment from X itself and didn't use external methods of monetization nearly enough. So mistake number 4 is relying too much on ad revenue. All right, mistake number 5 is a real dream crusher. But if you can avoid this trap, you will be unstoppable. I don't have a huge audience on X, only a few thousand followers, but because of my YouTube channel, I used to receive tons of DMs from people needing help. I did my best to help where I could, but it eventually reached a point where I was getting so many DMs that it was impossible to help everyone. And thinking back on the situation makes me cringe because I handled it in the worst way possible. I just stopped responding to people. I had exactly what any educational creator would want, a constant stream of leads right into my inbox. But I was so scared to sell something that I fumbled the bag completely. I cared too much what other people would say about me, so I just sat there and didn't do anything about it. But the thing is, no matter what you do, someone is always going to have a problem with it. Even Mr. Beast, who spends millions of dollars a year to make people's lives better through community service, doing projects like building wells in Africa, and other similar projects, gets roasted on Twitter for absolutely no reason. So the lesson I've learned is that it just doesn't matter what other people say. If someone gets mad and unfollows me because I offer one-on-one coaching, that's actually a blessing in disguise, because they were probably never gonna buy from me in the first place. So mistake number 5 is caring too much what other people think. All right, so those are the 5 biggest money mistakes I've made as a creator. And if you can avoid them, you will make a lot more money a lot faster. But now you might be wondering, how do I start making money on social media in the first place? Click the video on screen for a step-by-step guide that will get you on the right track.